Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. It is me, once again, screaming into the void of the internet. I'm just here at work. I'm waiting for them to open up, so, I just figured, I'm just gonna go ahead and make a quick video, because why not, But, I wanted to talk about something in relation to people feeling, how does one say? Like, unmotivated on trying to improve their lives and trying to make changes to their lives to suit them better. And what kind of sparked this was this feeling that I see going throughout a lot of the general space in the public that, okay, things suck, and everyone's essentially acknowledged how things suck, even when they're trying to sacrifice, trying to make a living right now is very difficult. And obviously, listen, I agree. And my thing is, well, you've acknowledged the problem, right? But what are you willing to change in your own life to account for it? Because if you're expecting the state to do anything to try and change it, you're dead wrong. You're watching in real time the attempts to go forward with this agenda where you'll own nothing and be happy. And if you don't believe that, then literally, again, just take the real estate market, for example, right? You've got people trying to sell you houses that have basically been built 30, 40 years ago, and they'll flip it, air quotes flip it. And listen, let me just go ahead and tell you something about working in multiple industries throughout all my life. People cut the crap out of corners. They cut corners. Don't think for a moment that just because, there's a whole bunch of regulations in an industry that they're not going to cut corners, okay? They're always going to cut corners. So trust in their word for the whole nonsense about, oh, well, it has to obey certain regulations, so you shouldn't have to worry, and it's obviously worth the price. No, it's not. Not by a long shot. There is usually much work to be done, and they just sold it for the highest price that they could get away with, and then you have to deal with the problems. And that's usually just how business works, right? But the point that I'm trying to get at here is you have instances like that where they're just buying up the properties, selling it at inflated prices, and if they can't sell it, right, they keep it on the market because sometimes you legally have to in business. You have to keep it on the market. There has to be a certain number of houses that are available, legally speaking, but they make it unavailable in the form of only certain people can actually afford it, so they just have it being rented. And so none of us are making enough money to buy a house. None of us are making enough money to actually be able to pay off a mortgage. Not that really accounts for anything, because the property taxes are so freaking high that it won't really matter. You're still paying it off for the rest of your life. You don't really own it. And even if you did buy the house somehow and you paid it off, guess what? Since the property taxes are there, if there's ever a point where you can't afford it anymore, guess who comes and gets it for a lot lower than you paid? Oh, yeah. So everyone's acknowledging it, but what are you willing to do to change it, For me, you guys have known, because I've basically shared my plan, I'm fine just living in a room. I'm fine basically, having minimal stuff. I don't really like to say the term minimalist, because I'm not one of these people that tells you you shouldn't be able to enjoy, things that you like by spending your money, because you work hard for a reason, you earn your money for a reason. So I'm not necessarily telling you that, you can't enjoy whatever it is that you want to enjoy. But what I'm trying to say is this: you do have to start making changes in your life if you want different outcomes, because you can't rely on the state to actually change it, because they don't give a rat's arse. They're just happy effing you over as long as they get what they want. So what are you willing to do to change it? You don't have to do, again, what I'm doing. But these are just advices. If you are working a job and things are not going very well, what can you cut out of your life that is a luxury? Maybe you might not want to cut it out, but cut it out and see how much money you'll save, Because there are people that try and say, oh, well, I need this, right? And it's you look at, say, this car that they're paying off, and it's say a 2024 model, the car is say $60,000, and it's do you have to drive that specific car? Why can't it be a car that you actually can conceive yourself paying off? No one's telling you gotta own some freaking 1980s model or something like that, not by a long shot. Although I think that even vintage cars right now are probably gonna get even pricier because they're going to become harder to come by and stuff like that. But the point is, people like to say that they need something, and what they need, air quotes, are like luxury things. Like, oh, I need to have my hair done or something like that, and it has to be a specific hairstyle, and I have to go to this specific salon, or it's just these like luxury accessories to their lives. And it's like, yes, looking presentable is important, but do you need to spend an arm and a leg to do it? Yes, you need to drive these days, or you need to have some kind of transportation, but do you need this luxury vehicle to do it? You know, I find that it's not just enough to say to say what you to say that something needs to change. You need to have like some kind of plan. Because if you have a plan, then like that's at least you at least know what you're working towards. You know what I mean? Because some people, they have to have a vision, and I'm one of those people that has to have a vision. I need to like know what I'm working towards, and I know what I'm working towards. You know, right now I'm over here just busting my balls and, you know, working and whatnot. Although I'll be honest, I actually very much like the job. I like the job. I have decent coworkers. You know, they're not ratchets, so I'm actually very thankful. I like my job. You know, I'm one of the fortunate people that can say that I actually like my job. Now, and it might just be like, you know, biased from not having worked all these years, so, you know, it could be that too. But the point that I'm trying to get at here, and my manager's showing up, so I'll go ahead and wrap this up real quick. The point that I'm trying to get at here is, if you have a vision and you have something to work towards, then it usually can help you pretty reliably understand what it is that you need to go for. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, we understand that everything sucks, but what are you willing to do in your own life to change and make it better? You know? Because expecting it to change on a grand scale is just, you know, a pipe dream. And, you know, like the freaking government and all the people with money do not want this to change because it keeps making them money. You know, all they care about is growth and money. But you can change things in your own personal life. You know, the biggest thing that you control in this world is not other people, it's you. So if you're unhappy, what can you do to change it? These are things that I think about on a consistent basis. And I'm in a position where, you know, I can finally start changing it. And if I'm in that position, I know that you guys can. I know that you guys can, you know. There are far smarter people and far stronger people than me, so I'm sure that you guys can. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up because my manager just turned in, so I'm going to go ahead and get ready to put in my, 8 hours and call it a day, guys. It's been real. Hope you guys have a good day. God bless. I will see you guys next time.